Hello and welcome to Full Time, live from the Old Suffolk Punch. My name's Sammy James, joined here by Farrell Monk.
Good afternoon.
Drew Heatley.
All right.
Jazzy shirt, look at that.
Thank you.
Fulham have won another game of football and kept another clean sheet. What a day for the Whites. A 1-0 win over Cardiff. For me, that's the most satisfying win of the season by a long chalk. Farrell, do you agree?
Absolutely. I was really nervous towards the end because it might not actually happen, but yeah, it was great, wasn't it, to get one over on Neil Warnock, especially when right at the end where they didn't throw the ball back after the injury.
Yes.
I mean, that is disgraceful. I didn't know if Neil Warnock was telling them, but obviously he was.
Remember when Arsenal in the FA Cup against Sheffield United scored from them and they're not passing it back to Sheffield United. They replayed the game. Who was in charge of Sheffield United and complained? It was Warnock.
Well, let's not replay this game, though.
What a horrible human being. That just shows the measure of the man, right?
Exactly.
Colin Warnock, double standards, never.
Outrageous.
It was a good game from Fulham's perspective, I thought. I thought we played pretty well, Drew. Tom Kearney came back into the side. Just sometimes we lacked a little bit of end products at times, but certainly in terms of keeping possession and nice, fluid, liquid football, I thought Fulham were really good from that perspective.
Yeah, the first half wasn't much to write home about, but we had I think it was about 3/4 of the ball, 75% possession in the first half, and yeah, when we're like that, it's just hard to play against us, and it's a little bit infuriating that it's happening after relegation, but we all know that everybody feels a bit freer when it's all the millstones off around the neck, and I think we're starting to see what this team would have been capable of if we didn't have the pressure of the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Ryan Babel was exceptional today. Obviously, he got the winner. What a screamer. We scored a few good goals this year, 2 of them coming against Cardiff, most of them coming from the boot of Andre Schürrle, but even Andre would have been proud of that one on a postage stamp.
Unbelievable. I mean, I was fortunate enough to sit right behind the trajectory.
Yeah, you've got a good
strike.
view, haven't you?
Great view of it, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It was unbelievable. And not just that, when I've now seen the replay, the speed the actual pass to him after a great run by Cyrus Christie, the man reborn himself, and then he just literally leathers it. He knew what he was to do straight away. First time into the top corner. I mean, the dive from Neil Etheridge, that 2 Neil Etheridge
made it look better, didn't he?
Yeah, it was literally just in that tiny fraction past the post. It was an unreal strike from a guy banging form. He's now got 5 goals. 5 goals since January.
Yeah, it's something like 5 and 7 already. It's very, very good for.
It's a very, very productive 4 months for him.
I should have put him in my fantasy team.
Yeah.
He'd have been an absolute dynamite.
I'm pleased for Ryan because I said it loads of times, the sort of indignation of the fans when we were rumoured to sign him and nobody wanted him.
We were all.
Let's be honest. No, we all did it. We all did it. Absolutely.
Did.
When I say the fans, I mean me as well. But he's come in, he's done what he's supposed to do, and yes, he's playing for a contract at another club right now. But we're reaping the benefits, so who really cares? I mean, for what it matters, it doesn't matter much. But he's playing for us, and he's scoring the goals for us. So.
He plays quite an interesting role for Fulham. We play kind of like a lopsided system with Sessegnon right out on the right, but Babel seems to play kind of like a free role. Him and Tom Kearney just seem to switch in and out, finding the space. The Cardiff back four didn't know where to stick or twist on them. Gunnarsson and Camarasa in the midfield were trying to sort of man mark them, but they didn't know what to do because they already thought, well, I've got 2 ahead of me and Anguissa and Chambers, but then all of a sudden they've got Kearney and Babel to think about when they thought that they would be wider players, and they were brilliant today, just feeding off each other all the time. It worked really, really well.
Is there a chance we keep him? I mean, Scott Parker talked in his press conference about how he'd love to keep Babel at the club. Scott's talking in press conferences, by the way, like he's got the job, isn't he? I don't know if he knows something that we don't.
I think he might.
Well, we'll come on to Scott in a minute. But specifically on Babel, I mean, at the end of the day, he's settled into a side. He's very important for us here. He's been a journeyman for several years, and here he is at a club that values him. He's got a burgeoning music career. Being in London's great for that. I'm clutching at straws, but I feel like there could be some chance that we keep hold of him. I know it's ambitious.
He's talking a lot about whether the demand's there, and I don't know whether he's priming it for sort of, just being really honest and saying, okay, look, do you know what? I was looking for a move, but the interest wasn't there. I'm sticking around. I'd love it, but I think he's got one eye on 2020 Euros, so I think that's ultimately going to decide whether he goes anywhere. And if somebody like a Norwich comes in, or a Sheffield United, for example, who might not be geographically an attractive proposition. It's Premier League football. I think he might still do it just with the Euros in mind.
Look, Ryan, if you're watching this, I'm telling you, Norwich is not as good for the music, okay? Stay in London. That's the way you want to be.
I would say that those two teams, no disrespect to them, considering the form that he's in at the moment, and he's in the Dutch squad, you would say that those teams are kind of underselling what he's actually worth. Considering in a team that isn't playing well, he's now the fulcrum of a lot of, what is actually going well for us at the moment. I would say he should be pushing even for, somewhere like Bournemouth or some of the more established teams like that. But you never know. I mean, it's not like we don't have money to burn. He's probably on quite a significant amount of money in the week, but we don't. It's something that we have. We've got money to burn.
He dictates his own terms anyway because he's not got any. He's only to the end of the season, so he's got none of these relegation wage clauses. So that's another sticking point. Adding to the myth of Ryan Babel is the fact that he looks so knackered after 30 odd minutes, and yet he keeps going and keeps going. And this is obviously 79 minutes, and he's banging in that sort of goal. It's a weird little sort of bit about his play. It's quite weird.
He does have that demeanour about him, though. It reminds me a bit of Brian Ruiz when he played for us in the Championship and didn't look that excited when he scored. Comes off, isn't clapping the fans, and I guess there's that element to him of maybe just, I'm a professional, I'm doing my job, but I don't love it here. But then again, he was laughing and joking with a few of the players after the game. Moving away from Babel, just a word on Dennis Adoy. That was probably the most notable moment of the first half. We wish Dennis well. I've heard some things online that Dennis is going to be okay. It was an absolute horror moment. It was a really brave header from Adoy to head it back to Rico. Nias was closing down. At the time, I thought that Nias was the one that made the contact, but it looks like it's the Marchand that's actually made. I mean, there was a drip out. Looked like he was getting gas and air on the pitch. It was a horrible moment to witness, and hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, it was. When I didn't quite see what happened because the players were obscuring my view, but as soon as after about 10 seconds or so, you can see that kind of like slide where his face just goes across the turf, which I was like, it might be a bit serious here. But then after a few seconds, he sort of gets up again and then goes back down. It was that kind of like up and down again that was kind of worrying. It was like, okay, let's, let's take some moment here and, calm ourselves. Fair play to the Cardiff fans who clapped him off as well. He got a great ovation. He was playing really well up until that point. Adoy's another man reborn really over the course of this season. But yeah, we all wish him well.
Absolutely. There's the shades of Niemi against Watford 2005 it reminded me of. But it's a mark of the man that he gets knocked out cold when he's literally horizontal going for the ball with his head. You say what you want about Adoy this season. He's always given 110% in a white shirt, so it's just typical that happens to him, and he's in that position for that to happen to him. And obviously, it's good that he's okay. These head injuries are always a bit dodgy at first, but it looks like he's going to be fine. So, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought Cyrus Christie came in and did a good job. And there's a nice little opportunity for Cyrus Christie now. 2 games left, so maybe just stake a claim that actually he's the right man for us to be right back next season. And Cyrus has got plenty of detractors, and we've talked about him all season long, but here's an opportunity, a couple of injuries ahead of you, put your case forward. And I thought he had a pretty decent game when he came on.
I would say it was solid, if yet unspectacular. Obviously he contributed largely to the winner, getting round his man and getting to a really decent position. And a lot of his play was quite positive. His defending was pretty solid. I didn't really there wasn't really noticeable any particular bad things from his game. There was one right at the end with the cross that came in from the right hand side that was looped to the back post. He did quite well to put the man off, not get a solid header on it, and I saw his fellow defenders give him a bit of a pat on the back and a high five as a congratulations. But yeah, I didn't think there was anything particularly stand out, but I didn't think there was anything particularly bad from him.
I would agree with that, but I would also suggest that the way that we've been this season, if we do not look at right back at the very least in the summer, and we say that actually Cyrus Christie is what we want going forward if you want to go back to the Premier League, that is negligent from us. We're lucky that Joe Bryan has come into his own in the second half of the season, and actually I'll be quite comfortable with him being on the left side. I think if we start with Christie without going somewhere better, I think we're being negligent, and it's probably a bad move. But having said that,
how old is Christie now?
He's in his mid-20s, I think. Yeah. He's no older than that. And I know that, there's...
He's not a bad option to have off the bench, but,
Massively.
I think what we've maybe learned from this season in the Premier League is that short-term options to get you up from the Championship don't leave you in a great place when suddenly you then need to stay in the Premier League, and people like Kevin McDonald, Cyrus Christie, kind of workhorses that got us up, then a flurry of loans have been part of the problem, because you come to the Premier League and suddenly need to buy all these players, and that's been part of our problem. So actually, maybe this summer we need to look at options that are not just right for the top of the Championship, but also, if we were lucky enough to go back up, are right for the Premier League as well.
Definitely.
Well, I think we need to look at here and now and look at the Championship next season. We have an option at right back straight away. I think the biggest thing we need to look at the moment is look at the players who aren't going to be here and then try and fill some of those holes that might appear. We might not have a striker in as much as Aboubakar Kamara is still on our books. I don't think he's going to get the starting berth. We don't know if Mitrovic is going to be here come August, and then that doesn't leave. I think there are more important positions we need to focus on at the moment. We don't know who's going to be here. Obviously, Tony Khan and the team, they're always going to be quite bullish about it. These players are going to be here. They are our players. They're in contract. They will be in Fulham shirts come August. But obviously,
it's a long summer.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's going to happen. You never know. Man City might come in for Alexander Mitrovic. They might come in for Aboubakar Kamara. You never know. Maybe. He's doing bits over in Turkey.
I've heard Guardiola is a big fan. You segged me on lovely though to Mitrovic, who today maybe didn't have his strongest performance in a Fulham shirt. Yes, some neat hold-up play, but his finishing at the moment is just leaving quite a lot to be desired. That chance at the beginning of the first half, Kenny puts it for him on a plate, and he blazes it into the Hammersmith end. And there's a couple other rash moments during the game as well. I think there was that chance towards the end of the second half where Neil Etheridge off his line. Okay, it's a hard chance, but he doesn't even come close.
You can take a touch, I think, in that position. He could have still beaten Etheridge if he'd taken the touch.
He's lacking in confidence, though, for me. And I know he got the penalty last week, but he hasn't had a goal in open play since January.
No. It's worth pointing out, and during the game, my brother made the point of if there's any other striker, we're on top of him straight away for some of those misses today. So it is important to pull it up, and it is a confidence thing. Of course it is. And some of those finishes today were just an excitement of wanting to get a goal in open play off his back, because penalties are penalties, but you need to get one in open play. So I think much more than that, it's quite difficult. He's had a really difficult season in terms of he's not really got the service he should have done, and it's all going to play its part. I think under Scott, he looks a lot happier, and he's paying lip service to the fans and all this sort of stuff, but yeah, he needed that monkey of his back of a goal in open play, and I thought he might have got it today, but it's a shame he didn't.
Yeah, I think one of his obviously key attributes is his strength and hold-up play. I did find that Sean Morrison and Manga did get the better of him, especially with his back to goal. It did get better and better as the game wore on. Maybe that's tribute to Mitrovic's stamina that he actually eventually got the better of them. But there was for a good hour or so that even with his hold-up play, they were getting the better of Mitrovic, which is one of his what we do.
There's been lots of times this season where defenders have found him out quite easily. Just make sure you attack Mitrovic. Don't let him win that chest. Don't let him win that flick on, and you can stop a lot of his play.
There was a bit of a turning point about an hour, 70 minutes in, where he didn't just hold the ball up, he actually rolled Sean Morrison. And I think that gave them something to think about after that. And after that, Mitrovic came into his own.
That's what we want to see more of, and that's what Mitro did last season. That's what, you look at that goal against Wolves last season where he rolls Connor Cody. He needs to be doing a little bit more of that sometimes. Be a bit less predictable, I think, is sometimes what I'm seeing from the stands. The last 10 minutes, we brought on Alfie Mawson for Ryan Sessegnon. Sess didn't have his greatest game, he hasn't for quite a long time. We went to a back five. I personally thought that was a poor substitution. It just invited Cardiff pressure, who of course throw in the kitchen sink. It's a weird scenario to be in. Sergio Rico.
What a guy.
What a man. That was a talismanic 10 minutes from him, and I mean, he's got a lot of stick from people this season. We saw the very best of him there, and he kept those 3 points in the bag for us.
I don't know what it is about some of our fans with Sergio Rico. I don't know, there was one time we caught the ball and there was like an ironic cheer from the crowd, and I'm like, he's such a brilliant shot stopper. He's great at crosses, he's confident, he knows what he's doing, he's a good footballer, and yet with all of those things laid out there for you, especially after the performance today, and
it's the punching. It's the punching thing.
It's so old school and out of date that goalkeepers should always handle. Always try and catch the ball.
He has flapped it a few.
He's been culpable with some stuff with not catching the ball. So that, and it's grown and it's mutated into this bigger thing than it is. Yeah. But he has been culpable a few times.
But when you have 100 shots at you a game, you're bound to have some that are going to be let in.
There was that period about West Ham, Southampton, 2 games in a row. He was he contributed to goals, and I guess that Everton performance when he flapped at a couple of things. But there was one moment today where actually there was a really good punch out of the box, and even some people behind me in the Hammersmith end were shouting, "Why is he punching?" I was like, he's just done something good.
You need to be able to distinguish, right? You need to be able, like you just have, but we can't sometimes as fans see the difference between a great punch and punching all the time and not catching all the time. And all
I look forward to Jermaine Genius on Match of the Day tonight. See what he says about Rico this week again, because obviously they will highlight it, won't they?
Yeah.
Do you know what was so? It's kind of eerie in a way, like watching him do all of those shot-stopping saves and then watching how deflated the Cardiff players were, because obviously this is Premier League life on the line. We're all right. We're having a great time. And we're denying them the 3 points, but just seeing how it killed them off, it was kind of weird.
We were so deep, like, and I think with a bit more, Sean Morrison, that header at the end, he's a yard out, and I think any team other than Cardiff or maybe Huddersfield punishes us in that situation, and I think it was our own downfall here, because Scott, I think, just invited it by going 5 at the back. There was no outlet because Ryan Sessegnon had gone.
We were a little bit naive when we did get the ball. Like, we didn't take it directly to the corner. Let's think about it pragmatically. We don't have players who do that. They don't have that pragmatic mind about it. We want to attack and play nice football. They don't have that immediate, let's get the ball to the corner. Even when Mitrovic did take it to the corner that one time, he did lose it quite quickly.
I mean, he was a 3-on-1 and almost like.
But he tried to take them on down the line, and the ball went out of play, which is, you would try and keep it down there as long as possible, even with 3 players around.
It is a hard situation though, because Cardiff were like their lives. It looked like their lives depended on it getting that ball forward, and actually. There was always going to be a storm. Whether it was Fulham, whether it was Bournemouth, whether it was Manchester City, Cardiff were going to throw the kitchen sink in that situation, and we came through it.
Yeah, well, we know how Cardiff play. We know what they're all about. They want to see as little of the ball as possible, and they just want the ball in the right areas. I mean, I did some little bit of tallying of the amount of passes that the back 4 did. How many accurate passes do you think that they did, the back 4, in total? Like,
half a dozen? Yeah, a dozen.
It was actually about 50, 55. In comparison...
Oh, right.
In comparison, Tim Ream...
Wait, sorry, you spent the game counting that?
No, it's on the app. On apps.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I was like, here he is with his scratch.
If he's counted it, it's got to be like...
Well, yeah, it's got to be a small number.
Right.
Yeah, that was what confused me.
But Tim Ream by himself did 88 passes. That shows the level of the difference that you have in between the two teams and what those teams are all about. Like, Cardiff don't want the ball, but this is a team, Cardiff, who are playing a team who have nothing to play for. They're already relegated, and they still didn't want to have any of the ball and try and create attacking opportunities. It only took them until like the last 10-15 minutes to do some sustained pressure, and only after Fulham actually got a goal.
But then I guess you talk about identities, and they're staying true to theirs well, and that's what's got them where they are, a few points ahead of us, and with a chance of staying up, even if they're not going to necessarily do it. So I guess if they'd abandoned all hope, all of their identity and started going gung ho, then it'd been us against Huddersfield, but in reverse. You've got to stick to what you are.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. So Scott Parker, 3 wins out of 3, 3 clean sheets out of 3. I don't know whether to ask you whether he's going to get the job, or do you think he should get the job? Do you think he's going to get the job? That's what I'm going to go for.
I certainly think there's a 75-80% chance that he will get that job. The only caveat would be if someone with huge experience and an amazing track record, like a Bielsa, decides to come and start a project at Fulham. I don't know if there's anyone out there that's going to do that, but you just never know who's going to crop up.
True.
I think he will get the job. I think that the last thing that the Cardinals want to do at the moment is start a new project. I think they want somebody who can take the existing project and see it through. I think for all of the talk and the bluster of we're not going to sell any players and etc., I think more players will stay than we think. I think we'll get permanent players. More of the permanent players will stay than we might think, and they want somebody like Scott who can take that group of players and mould them for the season ahead in the Darren Moore style of just let's try and get back up. Everyone, I think they're going to say, give us a season. If we can't do it, or if it looks in the January window like we're out of touch with the playoffs, you can go. And I think that's what's going to happen. So I think Scott will get it, and I think a lot more than we think will stay.
All right, well, thank you for watching Full Time today, live here from the Old Suffolk Punch. Do check out the pub before and after matches. They do a lovely spread here, don't they, as well as some good booze as well. There's going to be a podcast on Monday. Jack's going to be hosting that if you want more reaction from today's game, and there's also a fan cam coming up on the channel as well, so make sure you check that out. Farrell Monk, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Drew, in your jazzy shirt, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hashtag teams like Cardiff.
Shout out to Dave Preston, by the way. Who's,
yeah.
Got a shout out to Dave Preston.
Dave Preston has been a big friend of the pod for several years. He's leaving to go to America for a few months, and we're always very grateful for all his help. So thank you to Dave. Thank you for watching, and we will see you at Wolves.
Fulham way.